Welcome, everybody. This is Coffee with a Journalist. I'm Beck Bamberger, a publicist, a long-term publicist, making friends with media all over the place because we need to know, of course, how to work with our media friends, whether they be reporters, journalists, producers, freelancers, editors, and so forth. It helps make the world go round in our publicist life, as we know. And with us today, looking all sharp with his official headphones. Look at this, Alex, who's also launching a podcast. So we're doing all the things now. Is Alex Sherman. He's the media reporter over at CNBC. We're so happy to have you here, Alex. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Excellent. You were saying you already got a lot of examples of pitches, and we're going to get into those. Could you, though, define, because I do ask this for people to do, just the coverage beat now of CNBC, and then specifically more into your sector, because CNBC is a massive outlet.
Yeah, both are important points to know for any publicist that's pitching any CNBC reporter or producer. Look, CNBC is more than just what you see on TV. We also have a website and a robust digital operation that's producing stories on all sorts of different topics every day, similar to the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or any other of the sort of high-level business outlets that are out there. And those are the same services, I think, by and large, that we consider our competitors in terms of breaking news or writing features. Obviously, a difference with CNBC is that we do bend to video a little more. So it's part of my job. I would say 20% of my job or so. Is often working on longer form digital videos, and there are a handful of reporters that are doing that. So I've made a number of those over the years that are on my beat, and my beat has been media and entertainment until very recently, where I've added sports as part of it. It was always part of it. A lot of my time was being spent on like the NBA media rights, and so I came at that from a media angle. But of course, it's also the main revenue driver for the NBA. TV rights are the main revenue drivers for all sports leagues. So then you just got sense to move that way.
And then you just got the NFL with being able to have private equity owned stuff, and there's been a lot of stir up about that. So basically, a very fascinating beat, I'm sure, never boring.
Yeah, look, between those three buckets, media, entertainment, and sports, there's always something pretty big going on, and particularly sports media right now, which is why I think one of the reasons why CNBC has decided to launch a CNBC Sport vertical, which is, I would say, formally launching on September 5th with the publication of our NFL valuations. We hired a person named Mike Ozanian, who's been doing these valuations for all professional league sports teams for decades, I believe, and now he's part of the CNBC roster. So that will come out, and we will have a bunch of content around that. And then a few weeks later, I will launch a newsletter for CNBC Sport, and then we'll do the podcast, as you referenced, which will be a video cast like this one. So there's a lot of energy behind sports media right now, even with other arms of media. Sort of wallowing through layoffs and bad times.
So let's. I would like to get into this. This is not usually the topic we dive into, but since you're mentioning it, why, in your opinion, is there such energy around sports and dollars, basically?
Yeah,
dollars galore.
Because the world of television has moved in that direction. I think that's really the main driver. Which is, if you look at traditional pay TV, live sports is almost the one thing keeping that ecosystem alive.
And the Olympics were a banner too for NBC.
For sure. The Olympics
big time,
were huge,
huge,
for
massive.
NBC. That's why NBC is paying billions of dollars per year to broadcast the Olympics. And if you look at football, it's the same thing: billions of dollars per year to broadcast football. 93 or 94 of the top 100 watched TV shows last year were NFL football games. So it is where the oxygen has gone in terms of advertising dollars, in terms of rights money, and that has supported the sort of sports ecosystem as a lane of growth, unlike a lot of these other different lanes associated with TV media, which have gone the other direction.
Yeah. Fascinating. I mean, I guess that's your one way to beat, if you can, from the streaming platforms, is capturing live events and sports and everything. And how good can you get that? So Oh, what an exciting time, Alex, to be in the space. I love it. You shared a couple pitches, which we're going to get into, but first, let's get into your inbox. How is it? How do you manage it?
It's overwhelming for sure. I would imagine by the way, I love this topic in general. It's one that I talk about with colleagues on the side and certainly other communications people.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine every reporter deals with this differently. But
Oh,
by and large,
that's what we talk about on here. Yes.
yeah, I feel like I'm bombarded by pitches.
Yeah.
Almost all of them I'm ignoring. Most of them irrelevant to what I'm covering. And so if there's something in the lead of the pitch or the subject line that happens to be something that I'm thinking about or covering or something that I'm always thinking about, then I'll read the pitch, and it may or may not be something I'm interested in. But most of the pitches are not all that relevant, and they seem to be haphazardly cherry-picked from previous reporting I've done.
Oh, okay.
And so one of the things...
What do you mean, cherry? How do you mean?
Yeah, so one of my pet peeves with pitches
Tell us.
is when comms people will say, they'll do their pitch, and then they'll say, like, in fact, I'm going to read you something because it was in one of the recent examples I got as something that bothered me. Okay, I'm going to pull it up right now. Let's see here.
I love this.
Okay.
Thank you for dishing it, by the way, Alex. This is what we like on the show. Go ahead.
So the pitch was about AI technology and how. So it says, here's the beginning. Hi, Alex. We're past the midway mark of 2024, and the media landscape, so okay, I cover media, fine, is ripe for disruption. But which trends will drive activity across the sector throughout the rest of the year? And then it goes into trends, and they're all more or less about AI, data integration, privacy, VR advertising opportunities, AI-enhanced creativity and efficiency. I don't really cover any of that stuff. However, 5 months ago, I did write a couple of stories because I went to Davos with CNBC about AI. And so if you were very lazy about trying to figure out what I covered, you may assume that I do cover AI because I have written about it. But that doesn't mean that I care about it on a day-to-day basis. We have a whole team at CNBC that covers tech and AI. I'm just not part of it. So anyways, after all of this, there's a sentence here, which is, Alex, given your previous coverage with a link to my own story of media predictions.
In case you forgot.
Right. Given your previous coverage of media predictions, link to my story, I'd be more than happy to connect you with blah, 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 blah on the emerging trends. So a couple things there, which is, right, one, you don't need to link to my own story. Like I'm aware of what I remember and what I do.
I remember.
Right. Two, I don't cover media predictions. That doesn't even make sense. Nobody covers media predictions. Once a year, I write a story every year where I talk to a bunch of media executives
once a year
and anonymously, and then I aggregate 10 or 12 or 15 of their predictions for the previous year. But this is once a year. I do it at the same time every year at the end of the year. Not only does it not make sense, but it doesn't. It's something I'm doing once a year, and also it doesn't relate to anything you just said. Like the predictions thing I did doesn't have anything to do with this random person who, in my mind, I've never met this person. I don't know what they do to talk about these fairly random trends. In my mind, it's not random to this person because it's what they do on a day-to-day basis, but to me it is. So there's nothing about that pitch that is good in my mind. Now let me go to a pitch that is good, as a sort of flip example to that.
Please.
So here's one I got from someone I believe on your team, actually.
In the past, yep.
And I got it this past week, which was it's the name of the company, a digital wealth management platform, is closely following the NFL's decision to allow private equity to invest in the teams. Head of private investments, a woman's name, is available to discuss the topic. She can share insights on the decision, its implications for investors, and any ripple effects it may have on college sports. End of pitch. So what was that?
That's it.
2 sentences. So here's the thing, which is that I happened to be working on a story about NFL team valuations that is going to go along with this big launch of the CNBC sport vertical. And I was literally writing the portion of that story about how private equity may affect the
That's just so
valuations.
great.
And so I get this pitch, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm writing it, I need a voice for this. Like, I need an expert here.
Ta-da.
And so, like,
That's
as
just
I'm
wonderful
thinking about it,
serendipitous timing.
it's
Like, that's
wonderful
amazing. Yeah.
serendipitous timing. But that's almost always how these pitches work. It's almost all. It doesn't necessarily happen the moment like that.
I know.
But it for me, it usually is a situation of I'm writing a story. I realize I need a voice. Let me check my inbox to see if I've gotten any recent pitches about this specific topic. And so that's sort of the order of operations of how the pitches work for me. It is very rare that you are going to pitch me a story flat out, and I'm going to be like, oh, that's a good story. The order of operations here is I've come up with the story, or my editors and I have come up with the story. So I've already chosen that. And then I need someone who is an expert in this particular area. And how am I going to find this expert? Well, that's where the pitches come in. So it's either somebody I know, or it's somebody like in this one. This is a really niche thing. Private equity investment in NFL teams. Like, that isn't someone that I run with in circles all the time. So it is perfect for a pitch. It's someone like, well, who is an expert on this, And so that's where email pitches can really help.
I love it. Okay. So you had said earlier, and I love these examples, by the way, that you ignore most of them. Do you just mass delete? Do you ever file them? Do you ever go back? People want to know how they get in your inbox and stay there.
I don't mass delete any of them, but the NBC Universal email system auto deletes everything that's more than 3 months old.
Yes, I've heard this from a couple of the other big outlets. It's just gone. It's just gone.
It's just gone.
I would have heart palpitations.
Yeah, it often is irritating. Let me tell you that. It forces me to really be on my toes about communication that I want to keep.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? God, that's kind of refreshing though in some way. It's just it's always cleaned every 90 days.
Totally. So
wow.
Also, it does sort of forcibly make pitches that are in my inbox somewhat real time.
It's true.
If you go back a couple months, that may be a little bit too late, but more or less, which is helpful for me, because what it means is that the person being pitched to me probably still works at that same company, probably still does the same thing. So I'm at least not wasting my time on that end, chasing somebody that's they left a year ago and they don't do this anymore.
And just to clarify too, for people who are like, what the hell, that you get deleted? This is, I think the same is at Bloomberg, where it's just because there's just so much data you all have. There's just so much. There's so much. So there's some bill being paid that is listen, we cannot make a gigawatts for every damn reporter for the next 5 years back. No.
It's an email server issue.
It's a server issue. Yeah. Yep. AWS is can't handle. Anyway. Okay, Alex, you're based in New York City, correct?
Yeah, New Jersey technically, but I'm in New York at least once a week.
Yes.
Our office is in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey,
yes.
right over the GW Bridge.
Yes. Are there relationships you wish to build with Publicists ever, in person or otherwise? Yeah.
Yes. So certainly, if you're the corporate comms person at a major company that I'm covering, I always want to know that person.
Yeah. Perfect. Good.
Because they are the gatekeeper to me in order to make introductions to other people that work at that company. But I have relationships with plenty of external comms people that represent interesting people who can help me. And they obviously, all of them have a portfolio of different clients. Some of them will be of interest to me and other ones won't. But it's very helpful to know those people, because not only can they help me set up the introductions to certain people, but also they can act as sort of a proxy for that person. If I can't get on the phone with them, I can always try their comms person, and either they can get that person on the phone for me, or they can perhaps get information directly from that person if that person's sort of tied up, and then I can use that person as sort of a backdoor channel into getting direct information. So I absolutely want to have relationships with communications people. I do have relationships with many communications people, and that's really helpful. It's helpful for me to know who their clients are, so
Yep.
that I know who to go to.
Yep.
And it's also helpful because we're now establishing a relationship where
Yep.
they have a very firm sense of what I am interested in and what I cover. And to go back to your earlier question about CNBC, like, what am I interested in? It's sort of the highest profile themes and figures in the world of media, entertainment, and sports. So we are not a trade publication.
Nope.
The stuff we do doesn't tend to be all that niche. It's big companies, big figures, and the biggest stories that those people are thinking about and working in. And those are the people who I'm talking to and interviewing on a day-to-day basis. So that is the world that I run in and live in.
Got it. Okay. Note to everybody: no AI pitches. I'm sure. No.
Yes,
No.
right.
We don't need that.
You don't need that.
What
Not
about,
for me.
yeah, and you're kind of touching on it a little bit more, but I want to further go into this on sources. So yes, PR people, you could be helpful if you're touching these realms and such, the biggest of the biggest, and that's where you play. But is there a Rolodex of the sources you want to hear? So for example, people say, yes, if you have a PhD in molecular biology, from Cambridge, yeah, that's who I need to talk to because I'm writing science for Time, whatever. Do you have like a source book that you're looking to fill?
Not really.
Okay.
It's more ad hoc than that.
Got it.
Sure.
Okay.
It's very much a case by case basis. I think if I were a more organized person, that may be beneficial to me, but I'm not, and so it's very much like one story to the next for me, and then I'm figuring out like who I need to talk to real time every time. So it's right. I'm doing it. I'm figuring it out, and then I'm on to the next thing.
Damn.
Yep.
So speaking of then, the day in the life of, are you reading pitches constantly? Are you reading your inbox constantly? Or how does this function for you?
Yeah. So I'm like vaguely aware of the pitches. Okay. I'm definitely not reading them. That's why in the example I gave you from your colleague, it was like 2 sentences. Like, great, good. I'm not going to read a pitch that's like, forever long.
Well, you did have some samples in there too, and they were like paragraphs.
Yes, and I was just sort of like, my eyes glaze over at that point. It is all, I will say, like, a lot of comms people take a strategy where they throw something at the top that's sort of personal to me to get my.
How are you doing, Alex? I hope your dog is good.
A lot of it is like, I'm very public about being a San Francisco 49ers fan. So like, I get that a lot, sort of like go Niners thing or whatever. And like, that's nice. Like, that does catch my attention. So I'll probably at least read on to the next paragraph at that point. But, I still may not read like paragraph 9 at that point if it's, if it's not something that I'm interested in. But look, again, by and large, while I am aware of these things because they are coming through my inbox, and I need to like be sifting through my inbox for important stuff and not important stuff, so I do see them. I'm not really reading them unless I am focused on doing a story where I need it. Because again, this goes back to the order of operations thing. I'm not getting story ideas from pitches by and large. I already have the story idea.
Okay, yeah.
And then I'm using the pitch to help me fill in the blank for something I don't need. So again, other reporters may do this differently, but that's how I do it.
Some are like, oh, I haven't thought of that. But others are much more like you, like packaging the whole piece, and that person could fill in and be a perfect resource quote, et cetera, to fill it out. Let's go, Alex, if we can, to our rapid fire session. And let me know your answers here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Video or phone interview?
God, you hit me with a hard one in a rapid fire. Okay. If this is a person that I would like to have a long-term relationship with, then video. If it's a person where it's sort of like I'm on deadline, I'm working on a story, So like, again, your colleague's pitch to me. Yeah. Phone. Yeah. I don't need video. Phone. Like phone or even email for that matter.
Okay.
Like, I'll I think that's what I did with this one. I don't even remember if I spoke to the colleague on the phone. I just said like, yes, this is good. Like when you need the person on the phone, like I need to turn this around quickly. So perfect. Long-term relationship, video, short-term story, deadline, whatever, phone or email.
Oh God, I just did the very millennial thing. Did you see that, by the way? Okay, I did this. This is like, phone, whereas like,
yes, right.
actually, Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. I just caught myself on that. Okay. Bullet points or paragraphs in a pitch?
Yeah.
Unless it's 2 sentences, maybe.
Correct. Right. So
Yeah.
bullet points or short paragraphs, I would say. Either one of those is
Short
fine.
paragraphs.
Yeah.
That answers our next thing. Short or long pitches. Short, as we've
Short.
covered.
100%.
How about images attached or a Dropbox zip file? I don't see that's really relevant for you, but you tell us.
Yeah. I can't imagine that would be relevant. No, I would say generally that
Yeah, you don't need
doesn't make much sense.
you don't need those things. Okay. What about an email or a DM to somewhere, X or Instagram or anywhere else you can, LinkedIn, whatever? Do you ever want that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or is it all inbox?
If it's just sort of a generic pitch, then I would rather it be in my inbox. I actually find it a little irritating if it's like DM like this. It's sort of like, this is too intimate for this. The DM to me is like, something sort of urgent. So, like, I need to get in contact with you now. Otherwise, I'd rather it stay in the inbox, because then it's just too many different forms of community. I got to check my LinkedIn, my Twitter DM.
It's too much. It's
yeah.
too much.
Yep.
By the way, we had someone on here. I'm not going to reveal who is a freelancer. She has like 5 inboxes because she writes for, and I'm like, no.
Yeah,
no.
I can't. I don't do that. Can't do that. Yeah.
Okay. One follow-up or multiple?
Oh, great question. Well,
especially because it disappears every 90 days. Go ahead. Yeah.
One follow-up, a hard one follow-up.
One and done.
The multiple follow-ups is another pet peeve of mine. Good. That was one that like, if I haven't gotten back to you twice, why do you think I would get back to you a third time? Like, this is another thing which I know different reporters do.
It boggles the mind.
Like, please do not take my ignoring your pitch personally. Any of you that are listening to this, it is not personal. It just means that, like, I'm not interested in that topic at this time. But I can't respond to all of you telling you that, because it would take up my whole day. So, like, I will find you if I need something. So, yeah, one follow-up is more than enough.
Noted. Any press release or media kit, is that ever relevant?
Oh, well, I mean, a press release is often relevant depending on the story.
Yes,
sure.
yes.
But usually that's a thing that we would have already had a back and forth personal email about, where I would say, like, hey, is there a release with this? So, that usually doesn't come unless it's sort of obvious that I would need a press release. They're often embargoed, for instance.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we covered sources. We covered reading pitches. It's more like a scroll, an ambient scroll for you, Alex. How about last words here? What can we highlight, promote, tout, do for you? You mentioned the podcast coming up. Tell us about that, perhaps.
Yeah. So the first thing that will happen will be, there will be a newsletter that will kick off probably the end of September. That will be, I will top that with story, and then it will be sort of an aggregation of CNBC's best of in sort of media and sports coverage of that week, and then probably some links to maybe some outside work. But again, we're still sort of tinkering internally with what we want the format of that to be, and that will probably be a little bit of an evolution even after it launches. We're aiming for late September on that. We'll see if that is a formal date or not. And then this podcast will come out, we hope, in late October, maybe early November, but in that range. And that will be a show, 20-30 minute show like this one, where it will be a video cast with people in the sports business, and it will have a little bit of an investor slant to it.
By the way, is that a dog in the background? What's going on?
I think it's just a chair moving upstairs.
Oh God! Wow!
I didn't even know you could hear it down here.
No, it's all good. This is why we're in a very professional setting here, Alex.
Yeah, right. I'll repeat that answer because you want to use it.
No, I love it. No, I love
ambient noise.
Right? Ambient noise. Yeah. So we got a newsletter, we got a podcast coming up.
So yeah, this is all the newsletter and the podcast are all part of this CNBC sport vertical that CNBC is launching. We announced that we were going to be launching it a month or two ago. And so now we're putting energy and resources into having this thing, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I love it. Alex, thank you for being on today, sharing your home environment with us here, being on video, because we're doing now video and so forth. Everybody, this is Alex Sherman. He's a media reporter at CNBC Sports. Yes, not AI.
Yes,
That's
the takeaway.
That is the takeaway. That is
Yeah.
the takeaway. Thank you, Alex, and congrats on the newsletter and podcast coming up. That's
Thanks, Beck.
another
Appreciate
dang
it.
thing to do. So good on you.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.